Maybe Thomas is right. Over 100,000 innocent people worldwide have died from the pandemic so far, and thousands are dying each day. Christ is risen. Show him to me. Thomas is no fool. He sees what families are going through in this current economic crisis. You've seen the Lord? Where? Thomas will show you struggling schools in the inner city, starving children in the Sudan, dying beggars in India, and a landscape that is marred and bloodied by injustice, oppression, and death. Stay in your locked room, Thomas says. It's not safe out there. Take another look at the tomb. The rock is still in its place, sealing Jesus in tight. Last Sunday was just a beautiful dream. And we begin to rethink last Sunday. You know, Thomas, you may be right. But Easter opens our minds and hearts to see Jesus in our midst in the nail marks of incredible compassion and generosity, heroic compassion and generosity. For example, the short ad by Dove Soap, aptly titled "Courage is Beautiful," shows doctors and nurses in their scrubs and protective gear, such as masks and goggles perched on their necks and heads. Upon closer inspection, you notice that each of the medical workers has deep, dark marks and indents on their faces from the protective gear they must wear constantly. We can understand Thomas's cynicism and despair, but the outrageous news of Easter calls us, challenges us to see beyond our own fears, sorrows, and anger, and recognize the blessing we have received and the blessings we have to give as the baptized, adopted sons and daughters of God. The crucified Jesus also walks in our midst in the poor, the sick, and the suffering. Christ invites us today to see his hands and touch his wounded side in forgetting our own hurts to bring comfort and healing to others. With an openness of heart and a generosity of spirit, we can transform our own lives and the world around us in the possibilities of the Easter miracle. As Jesus said to his disciples in today's gospel and now says to us, "As the Father has sent me, so I send you." Bishop Robert Barron, Auxiliary Bishop of Los Angeles, wrote this reflection on this morning's gospel, which concluded with this commission. Jesus said to them, "Go into the whole world and proclaim the gospel to every creature." Bishop Barron wrote, "Friends, in today's gospel, the risen Lord commissions the 11 apostles to proclaim the good news to everyone. And this commission to evangelize the people of the world extends to all baptize Christians. To evangelize is to proclaim Jesus Christ crucified and risen from the dead. When this kerygma, this paschal mystery, is not at the heart of the project, Christian evangelization effectively disappears, devolving into a summons to bland religiosity or generic spirituality. When Jesus crucified and risen is not proclaimed, a beige and unthreatening Catholicism emerges, a thought system at best, an echo of environing culture. Peter Maurin, one of the founders of the Catholic Worther movement, said that the Church has taken its own dynamite and placed it in hermetically sealed containers and sat on the lid. In a similar vein, Stanley Horowitz commented that the problem with Christianity is not that it is socially conservative or politically liberal, but that, quote, "is just too damn dull." For both Maurin and Horowitz, what leads to this attenuation is refusal to preach the dangerous and unnerving news concerning Jesus risen from the dead. I'd like to conclude with this poem that was sent to me by a friend, and her 85-year-old mother sent it to her. She's very active in her church. And this poem is entitled "How the Virus Stole Easter" by Christy Bother, and in parentheses with a nod to Dr. Seuss. "'Twas late in 19 when the virus began, bringing chaos and fear to all people, each land. People were sick, hospitals full, doctors overwhelmed, no one in school. As winter gave way to the promise of spring, the virus raged on, touching peasant and king. People hid in their homes from the enemy unseen. They YouTubed and Zoomed, social distanced and cleaned. April approached and churches were closed. There won't be an Easter, the world supposed. There won't be church services and egg hunts are out. No reason for new dresses when we can't go about. Holy Week started as bleak as the rest. The world was focused on masks and on tests. Easter can't happen this year, it proclaimed. Online and at home, it just won't be the same. Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, the days came and went. The virus pressed on, it just would not relent. The world woke Sunday and nothing had changed. The virus still menaced, the people estranged. Pooh-pooh to the saints, the world was grumbling. They're finding out now that no Easter is coming. They're just waking up. We know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, and then all the saints will all cry, boo-hoo. That noise, said the world, will be something to hear. So it paused, and the world put a hand to its ear. And it did hear a sound coming through all the skies. It started down low, then it started to rise. But the sound wasn't depressed. Why, the sound was triumphant. It couldn't be so, but it grew with abundance. The world stared around, popping its eyes. Then it shook. What it saw was a shocking surprise. Every saint in every nation, the tall and the small, was celebrating Jesus in spite of it all. It hadn't stopped Easter from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the world, with its life quite stuck in quarantine, stood puzzling and puzzling, just how can it be? It came without bonnets, it came without bunnies, It came without egg hunts, cantatas, or money. Then the world thought of something it hadn't before. Maybe Easter thought doesn't come from a store. Maybe Easter perhaps means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, the story's not done. What will you do? Will you share with that one or two or more people needing hope in this night? Will you share the source of your life in this fight? The churches are empty, but so is the tomb, and Jesus is victor over death, doom, and gloom. So this year at Easter, let this be our prayer. As the virus still rages all around, everywhere, may the world we see hope when it looks at God's people. May the world see the church as not a building or steeple. May the world find faith in Jesus' death and resurrection. May the world find joy in a time of dejection. May 2020 be known as the year of survival. But not only that, let it start a revival.